Hey everybody, good afternoon, and welcome to my new weekly live stream that I'm going to be doing from now until we get some lottery vouchers in our hand, because the news is going to be coming fast and furious as we get closer to the California Dream for All release. So right now I'm just starting the pattern of getting in front of you, giving you updated information as I get it. Thank you for joining me. If you're watching live, if you're watching recorded, put comments in. If you're watching live, you post a comment as well, and I can pull it up immediately. So first and foremost, every single week, it's going to be what's new this week. The answer is nothing. So California Housing Finance Authority, CalHFA, has made it very clear they are not going to give us any extra information. They're not. I fought to try and get an idea of when at least they're going to make an announcement on when they're going to open up the portal, and they haven't. Let me tell you what I think is going on. They don't know how much money is going to be available for the next release until they figure out how many people used the money in the current release. Let me give you a little bit of background on this. If you don't recall, we had the money that was released in 2024. Okay, that money was actually allocated in 2023. That money ran out, but in August of this year, they took the allocation that was allocated this summer and they applied part of that money to give everybody on the waiting list a voucher. So everybody got a voucher in August. They had 90 days to use that voucher. September, October, November, their 90 days are up, but they get a one-time extension for another 90 days. They have until February the 18th to use that money. If they don't get into contract and reserve their money by February 18th, it goes into the pool for next year's money. The question is how much money is available for next year. CalHFA is not going to know until February 19th, at least a good idea of how many vouchers are under contract and have been used. My gut says they're holding off to actually kick this off until after that date. So that does not mean anything. They could tell us tomorrow that they are opening up the portal on January 2nd, but my gut says they're going to give us at least 30 to 45 days notice. And my gut says that they're going to do a lot of advertising to try and make sure they don't miss anybody, which is exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give you as much information as I can, as early as I can in the process so that you can share with your friends. So you can tell everybody that you know about the Dream for All program. Now, here's the catch-22. If you're looking to get the money yourself, you don't want any of your friends to sign up, because the more people that sign up, the less chance you have of actually getting access to the money. So it is a bit of a catch-22, but look, we're in a situation where it's just plain a lottery. And I personally would think, well, I want my friends and family to have this opportunity as well, because my chances are pretty slim of getting the money. Let's at least share it with some of my friends and family. CalHFA is going to put an all-out effort in marketing to get as many people to sign up for this program as they possibly can. And so you need to be aware of the fact that there's going to be a lot of people signing up. You don't want to be late. You don't want to miss the opportunity. And that's why I'm doing these regularly, to keep you updated on what's happening, what the program announcements are, etc. So today I'm going to start out my first live stream talking about what's the catch. Like, for a lot of you, you've been watching me and following me all along, and you know what the catch is, but this is a refresher. This is not free money. As a matter of fact, this is actually the most expensive down payment assistance program that I have ever heard of, as far as how much money you are paying back to the states. Now, if you scan the QR code up here, you'll get to my calculator. As you go into my calculator, and I'll show you really quickly here on the screen, and for the people on Instagram, this will become really small. I'm sorry about that. But what you'll see here, if you go to my calculator and you click on that link, you will right up here in the top be able to go to resources. And inside of resources, you have tools and calculators, and there's a payback calculator. So if you view this payback calculator, you're going to see how the payback works, and it's running rough numbers. These are not guaranteed numbers. These are approximations. This is my calculation of it. But what you're paying back is you're paying back 20% of the original amount of money that you, excuse me, not 20%. You're paying back 20% of the increase in value. And so it is seen by a lot of people as, well, gosh, John, this is free. There's no interest on it. As long as I don't sell or refinance, I don't have to pay the money back. That just is not true. Some people think, well, gosh, if the value of a home doesn't go up, then I don't pay anything back because there's no appreciation. So I want to make it super clear. This is not a grant. This is not free money. What it is it's a loan. Now, you are borrowing 20% of the purchase price. Now you can borrow less than 20% for two reasons. A, you decide you don't want to maximize the money. I've only had one person in the last 60 people I've done between 2023's money and 2023's money and 2024's. Only one person out of those 60 has said, I don't want to take all the money. Now, the reason he didn't want to do it is because he said, I got 10% of my own money for a down payment. This was back in 2023 when you could put more of your own money. And he only wanted 10% from the state, so he only had to pay back 10%. You can theoretically do almost that. You could put 5% out of your own pocket, plus 15% from the state, and that's your 20% down plus closing costs. But you're now paying on a bigger loan balance. So most people aren't doing that. But if you're over $750,000, then you're capped out at 150 grand. So there is a limit. Whatever percentage you get from the state relative to the purchase price, that's the percentage the state has invested in your purchase. Just think of it that way. And so the state is investing typically 20% into your purchase. It's kind of like if your uncle were to help you buy a home and he says, hey, I'm going to pay for half of the home in cash, but I own half the house because I paid for it in cash. So when you sell the house, you're splitting it down the middle, and I'm getting half of what the house is appreciated to. That is exactly what's happening here, except it's not your uncle, it's the state, and they're not giving you half, they're giving you 20%. But here's the kicker. You and only you are responsible for the cost of selling the home. So let me give you some really simple math. Let's pretend that you buy a home for $600,000 and you sell that home and you sell it down the road. And let's pretend that you sell it in 5 years and the property is worth 700. Okay. So I'm plugging this into my calculator to run the rough numbers. So if the property went up by $100,000 in 5 years, you're paying them back the original $100,000 you borrowed, plus you're paying them back 20% of the $100,000 it went up. So you're paying them back $120,000 back to the state. Okay. And the cost of selling the home, which on average is 5 to 6% of the sales price. Let's just call it 6%. So the cost of selling that $700,000 home is going to be approximately $42,000. So you're going to spend $42,000 to sell the home, and the state's not splitting any of that. So the price of the home went up $100,000. The state got $20,000 of that, which leaves $80,000 for you. But out of your $80,000, you're paying $42,000 as the cost of selling that home. So what's left for you? Technically $38,000. But here's the piece you're missing. You're missing the fact that during those 5 years, you paid down the balance. And so in 5 years, your original loan started at $480,000, and you paid down $30,000 of principal in those 5 years. And so that means that you're actually getting $68,000 from the sale of the home. It still isn't the $80,000 you thought you were getting, but you did pay down the balance. And in the meantime, you got a tax write-off because you get to write off the interest you pay on that loan amount, the 80% that you're borrowing. So there's a lot of benefits to this program, but the truth is there's a catch. The catch is it's not free money. The catch is you for sure have to pay it back later. The catch is even in 30 years, when you finish paying off your mortgage and you owe nothing, you owe the state the $100,000 or 20% that you borrowed, plus 20% of how much the home has grown in value. And now there's a cap to that. So the state won't, their appreciation is capped at 2.5 times the original loan amount. So if you got $100,000, the most you can pay back in appreciation is 250 grand. But remember, you owe the 100 back plus the 250. So in 30 years, when you finish paying off this mortgage, you still owe $350,000 to the state. Now you can obviously take out a mortgage at that time to refinance. The likelihood is you're going to sell the home before that. The likelihood is you're going to refinance to combine the two loans together before that. But the fact is the money never disappears. It's not a grant. It's not forgivable at some point down the road. There is no loophole that says, oh, I can get out of this at some point down the road. You for sure owe this money back to the state. You just aren't making any monthly payments on it. But make no mistake, the longer you keep it, the more expensive it becomes. Now, there's a certain point when you've maxed out the most they can add, and then keeping it longer doesn't matter. But at the end of 30 years, if you haven't refinanced, if you haven't sold the property, you've got to pay them back that full amount. Remember, you don't have to write a check out of pocket. I'll be here to help you. My kids will take over my business. We'll help you out. The bottom line is you will be able to refinance that, but you're not going to be paid off in 30 years because now you're going to have to start making payments on that 350 grand. But I'm not trying to scare you away from this program because the truth is this program is giving you a significantly lower monthly payments than any other down payment assistance program out there. And for a lot of people, it's the only way you're going to become a homeowner. The only way you can afford to own a home in today's market is through this program, and it is safe. Compared to the loans of 20 years ago, where people were borrowing money that was an adjustable rate that changed in 2 years, and they had a prepayment penalty on it, and they had no idea what their payment was going to be, your payment is fixed. You know what your monthly payment is going to be. And with mortgages, unlike rent, your payment stays the same or goes down over time. With rent, pretty much your payment stays the same or goes up over time. I was talking with a client this morning that I helped her buy a home 10 years ago. She's now getting married and she's looking to buy a home with her fiance. And so we're talking about the difference in affordability. And she goes, man, John, it's totally different today than when it was 10 years ago. And I'm super glad I bought 10 years ago. My payment is so much more affordable because I bought 10 years ago. But I remember when she bought and that payment felt like a stretch. And so when you are becoming a homeowner, when you're stepping from being a renter to being a homeowner, that leap is a big leap sometimes. It feels very scary, but there are things that you get as benefits. One of them being the fact that you don't have to worry about your payment going up over time. Because if you look back 10 years ago, I'll guarantee your rent's gone up quite a bit, unless you're one of the lucky few that has a landlord that hasn't raised your rent. Your rent's gone up quite a bit. And so you have to think to yourself, where am I going to be in 10 years? If I can afford the monthly payment using a different down payment assistance program that's going to have a higher monthly payment, or if I have another way to come up with the down payment that isn't borrowing the money from a down payment assistance program, you're likely better off, but it's going to be a higher monthly payment. And can you afford that payment? Because no matter how much better that option is long-term, if you never make it to long-term, you don't see any of the benefits. Long-term benefits don't exist if you can't get past the short-term. So if you can't afford the monthly payment, if you can't afford to write the check every single month, then there's no point in trying. And that's where this program comes in because it gives you the biggest decrease in your monthly payment. And if you if you log into the calculator that's floating up above my head, you'll be able to create an account and run numbers. You'll be able to see, even without creating an account, you'll be able to see roughly what the payment would be. And then if you log in and create an account, you can actually run numbers to see how much do you qualify for. Without logging in, you can see this payoff calculator just to get an idea of, man, what happens if I sell in 1 year and the price hasn't gone up? You're going to lose money. You're either going to be in a short sale situation, which means you're selling the house for less than what you owe, or you're going to have to come up with money out of pocket because if the property value didn't go up, you borrowed 100% of the sales price, there's no equity left anymore, especially for some people who are borrowing more than 100% because they're building their closing costs into the loan. It's a great program to let you get in with literally zero money out of pocket, but it's costly. And it's a little bit risky if you plan on needing to sell within the next 1 to 5 years. So you want to have a horizon that says, I plan on keeping this house for a longer period of time. Typically, at least 5 years is the smart play. Now, look, life happens, things change. You may need to sell, but you have to understand, you could be in a position where you can't sell. I had a client who did Dream for All, not with me, bought a brand new construction home. And he did that Dream for All loan in May of this year. And he found out afterwards that there was an issue with his immigration status. His work visa required that he lived within a certain radius of his job. And the house he bought with this builder was outside of that radius. And he said, John, I don't want an immigration issue. I don't want to be kicked out of the country because my work visa is invalidated because I moved too far away. I didn't know this was the case and I don't know what to do. Can I sell the home? And I said, yes, you can sell the home. But can you sell the home and get back what you paid? And the answer was no. Just where he happened to buy, new construction homes had gone up in price and they had come down. And so he was actually significantly underwater. He's in a position where he owes more between the Dream for All assistance loan and his primary loan than what he could sell the house for today, not even mentioning the fact that you have costs to sell the home. And so we talked about the scenarios, and the truth is, I said, look, you didn't plan for this, you did nothing wrong, but the truth is the state's not going to let you out of your agreement. The only option you have is keep the home and rent it, which you can do. You can keep a home and rent it, and CalHFA cannot stop you from doing that. As a matter of fact, he was super worried about the rule in the conventional lending guidelines. When you sign your note, you sign your loan paperwork, it says, I intend, intent being the operative word, I intend to occupy this property within 60 days of ownership, and I intend to maintain that occupancy for at least 1 year. Well, guess what? His intentions were pure. He didn't not do that. He literally doesn't have a choice because of his immigration status, and he didn't understand the rules of his work visa. So his intent was not to buy this and defraud the state and make it an investment property, but he can turn it into an investment property. The problem is the rent income was far less than what his mortgage payment was. I said that at the beginning when I was talking about the reasons not to do this. Look, this makes the payment more affordable compared to the jump from rent to Dream for All is smaller than the jump from rent to another down payment assistance program, but it's still a jump, and he couldn't cover the difference. And so he was in a position where his only option is to sell the home as a short sale, which means it's going to hurt his credit, and it's going to put him in a position down the road where he's going to be precluded from buying a home for 2 to 3 more years. But as we talked about it, that was probably the most likely choice that was going to lead to the best of all bad outcomes. What's my point? I'm not trying to scare you out of or scare you away from using this loan. I'm not trying to scare you away from buying a home. But anything in life, if it comes with an opportunity to gain, also comes with an opportunity to lose. And so when you are buying a home, you are gambling on the market. But the gamble isn't a gamble if you have a long enough time frame looking at history. It's still a gamble, but history says that house prices have never, ever been lower in any 10-year time frame between the start of that 10 years and the end, even if we count the Great Recession back in 2007, 2008. If we look at what prices were right before that at 2006 and 7, right at the peak, and then they dropped significantly and they fell all the way down to around 2011, then they started going back up. By 2014 to 2015, across the nation, prices were back above where they were in 06 and 07. So prices can drop. And even that was, by the way, the worst drop in house prices since the Great Depression in the 1930s. So that was extremely uncommon, and it was created by mortgage companies doing loans they shouldn't have done and giving people loans they can't afford. And we're not in that situation again. But we are in a situation in some markets and under some circumstances where home prices have come down some from where they were, especially new construction. New construction is super appealing. Builders were able to keep their prices high over the last couple of years. Why? Because builders were able to charge you a higher price because they were buying down your interest rate and giving you a really low rate. The problem is now you got a really low rate, and if you're feeling stretched, you can't refinance to lower that rate because they already bought you down. And sometimes it was only a temporary interest rate, but the truth is at a certain point that doesn't entice enough people. And so the builders finally had to start lowering their prices. And so the people that bought right at that peak, right before builders started lowering the prices in the last 6 to 12 months, those are the ones that are in the most trouble. And we couldn't have seen that coming. You can see it in the rearview mirror and you can say, oh my gosh, that was obvious. Yeah, but this same phenomenon's been happening for the last 15 years since the Great Recession, and things improved and we continued to have prices going up. And so every moment you can say, oh, you should have seen that in the rearview mirror. You had people saying in 2021 that prices have gone up too much and they're going to crash. They didn't. They kept going up and they kept going up. And then we saw them hit up to 2022 and 2023, and then they leveled off. Okay. All right. So I got a question here from Alvi. Alvi says the price of homes is 100,000 lower even for selling. Yeah, so that's the challenge, is that depending upon where you're buying and what you're buying, that is a reason that you need to be concerned about the market. Okay, but Warren Buffett said a long time ago, Warren Buffett, owner of Berkshire Hathaway, and I know maybe that's one of his companies. Anyway, he said that long-term he's made money investing by being confident when people are scared and being scared when people are confident. And so right now, most people are scared and saying, I don't know if home ownership is a good idea. Like Albie just said, home prices have dropped and maybe this is a bad thing. Or maybe prices have dropped and now they're going to rebound and now home prices are on sale. So I don't know how, at some point prices are coming back up. I don't know if they're going down further or not. But right now, when you look at Dream for All, it's a golden ticket opportunity. And if we look at history, it was 2 years since we last opened up this lottery portal. And so now is the time for you to get yourself ready. Now is the time for you to talk to me about all of the pros and cons. Now is the time for you to download my calculator and take a look at all the resources that I have in there. Play with it yourself. No cost, no obligation, but it allows you to run your own numbers. It allows you to play out your own scenarios, not just on what it's going to cost to purchase, but what it's going to cost you later to sell, because this is not free money. I can't repeat that enough because people have misunderstood for the last 3 years, thinking this is free money. Thinking that, hey, I don't have to pay it back as long as I don't refinance and as long as I don't sell. And that is not true. You will always pay back the amount of money you originally borrowed, always, unless you let it go to foreclosure or short sale. And that is extremely damaging to your credit and to your ability to buy something in the near future. So this is really, really important that you guys understand this. I really, again, I don't want to be a naysayer, but I want to be factual. I want to be honest. And so I'm starting out this series every single Monday. I'll be talking to you guys about different ways that we can utilize the Dream for All program, news or information that we learn. So noon on Mondays, I will be here. If I'm on vacation, I'll do a pre-recorded session, pre-recorded video, and I'll release that at the same time. So join me every single Monday at noon or watch it recorded for as much updated information as I can give you. But realize this program is not for everyone, but the program is amazing for the people that it is good for, and it helps you get into home ownership. 80% of something is better than 100% of nothing. So don't be in the position like some of my clients who have said, I'm not going to do that because I don't get 100% of the sales price. And they end up not buying anything because they can't afford or won't be willing to pay the monthly payment that comes with borrowing a higher percentage, not having as big of a down payment. So don't make that mistake. Don't make the mistake of working with a lender that doesn't understand this program. If you haven't figured it out by now, I am interviewing for the job to be your lender, whether it's for Dream for All or for something else, whether it's for you, your friends, your family, your enemies. I don't really care. I'm interviewing for the job to take great care of you. Scan the QR code above, click the link in the description down below, and let me help guide you through this process. This is a free tool that's floating above my head that will help you to make decisions about if this is the right program for you. You put in your income, you put in your rough idea of your credit scores, you put in your debts, and then you can model different scenarios in different cities and different counties and really different purchase prices to show you what can I qualify for, what can I buy, to help you decide, is this a good idea? And then once you're ready to move forward, reach out to me. I'll guide you and take great care of you. Thanks everybody for listening. Have an absolutely very Merry Christmas. We'll talk to y'all next week. Bye-bye.